The opening frames reveal the stark corridors of power in Manhattan, where Lauren Monroe stands with unwavering composure before a phalanx of reporters outside the federal courthouse. Her sharp black suit cuts an authoritative figure against the marble columns as camera flashes illuminate her determined expression. The questions come rapid fire about her latest prosecution of a Wall Street exec. Her red lipstick stands as the only splash of color against her severe professional attire, while her dark hair remains pulled back in a tight bun that speaks to her no-nonsense approach to justice. The crowd of journalists presses closer as she makes her way toward the courthouse entrance, but Lauren maintains her controlled demeanor even as one reporter breaks through with news that will shatter her carefully constructed world. The reporter calls out that her father, Archer Monroe, has died suddenly, and the words hit Lauren like a physical blow. For just a moment, her mask slips, revealing the vulnerable daughter beneath the hardened prosecutor facade. She recovers quickly, but the damage is done as the cameras capture her momentary lapse. The scene shifts to show us who Archer Monroe was in life through glimpses of his imposing presence at political fundraisers and corporate boardrooms. Patrick Warburton portrays the patriarch with an air of absolute authority that commands every room he enters. His silver hair and expensive suits speak to decades of accumulated power, while his steely gaze suggests a man accustomed to getting his way through any means necessary. The Monroe family estate sprawls across acres of manicured lawns and ancient oak trees that have witnessed generations of wealth and influence. The main house rises like a fortress of red brick and white columns, while smaller buildings dot the property like satellites orbiting a planet of privilege. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere is thick with grief and tension as family members gather for the reading of Archer's will. Catherine Monroe sits with regal bearing despite her obvious pain, while her silver hair catches the light from crystal chandeliers overhead. Connie Nielsen brings a quiet dignity to the role of the grieving widow, whose composed exterior hints at depths of sorrow she refuses to display publicly. William Monroe arrives with the confidence of a man born to power and entitlement. Chace Crawford embodies the golden boy politician whose campaign for re-election has been carefully orchestrated by his father's political machine. His expensive suit and perfectly styled hair reflect a lifetime of privilege, while his easy smile masks the calculating mind beneath. He moves through the gathering with practiced charm, greeting family members and close associates with the same measured warmth he reserves for voters and donors. The contrast between William and Lauren becomes immediately apparent as they represent two different paths carved from the same stone of inherited advantage. Harold Thewlis, the family attorney, commands attention as he prepares to reveal Archer's final wishes. Michael Beach brings gravitas to the role of the longtime legal counsel who has shepherded the Monroe family through decades of complex financial and political maneuvering. His weathered face tells stories of late-night phone calls and crisis management, while his careful demeanor suggests knowledge of secrets that extend far beyond simple estate planning. The leather-bound will rests on the mahogany table like a sacred text waiting to reveal divine judgment upon the assembled family members. The reading begins with standard legal language, but quickly reveals shocking disparities that threaten to tear the family apart. William receives the lion's share of the estate, including $20 million and controlling interests in various business ventures that will ensure his political career remains well-funded. Lauren, by contrast, inherits a mere $1 million along with the family's summer property, a bequest that feels more like punishment than inheritance. The disparity cuts deeper than simple mathematics as it represents Archer's final judgment on his daughter's choices and values. Catherine receives provisions for her comfort and security, but the real surprise comes in what Harold reveals privately to Lauren after the other family members disperse. A manila envelope sealed with Archer's personal stamp contains items that Harold handles with obvious reluctance. Inside, Lauren finds a brass key of antique design along with a thumb drive that seems to pulse with ominous significance. Harold explains that Archer left specific instructions for these items to be delivered only to Lauren, with explicit warnings about the gravity of what she might discover. The thumb drive contains a video message recorded in Archer's private study, where shadows seem to dance across his weathered features. His usual commanding presence appears diminished as he speaks directly to the camera with obvious discomfort. Archer explains that he has carried a burden for 30 years that has eaten away at his soul like acid. He speaks of choices made in darkness that created consequences no amount of money or power could undo. The key will unlock the truth, he says, but he begs Lauren to consider carefully whether she truly wants to know what lies beneath the carefully constructed facade of the Monroe family legacy. Lauren finds herself torn between filial loyalty and her prosecutor's instinct for justice. Her husband Scott, played by Marque Richardson, represents the voice of reason, urging her to let sleeping dogs lie. Their modest apartment stands in stark contrast to the Monroe mansion, reflecting Lauren's deliberate choice to build a life separate from her family's wealth and influence. Scott's concern for his wife's well-being conflicts with his understanding of her need to pursue truth wherever it may lead. Their young daughter Claire becomes an innocent reminder of what Lauren might lose if she follows the path her father has laid out for her. The family property extends beyond the main house into wooded areas, where ancient trees create cathedral-like spaces filled with dappled sunlight and deep shadow. Lauren follows a barely visible path, indicated in her father's cryptic notes, until she discovers a concrete structure hidden beneath decades of accumulated leaves and undergrowth. The brass key fits perfectly into a heavy steel door that opens with mechanical precision to reveal a corridor that seems to descend into the earth itself. Fluorescent lights flicker to life, revealing concrete walls stained with moisture and time, while the air carries scents of dampness and decay. The corridor leads to what can only be described as an underground prison, complete with steel bars, and a heavy door secured with multiple locks. Inside this makeshift cell, a figure huddles in the shadows, like some forgotten prisoner from a Gothic nightmare. The man who emerges into the light bears little resemblance to normal human society after 3 decades of captivity. His hair has grown into a wild tangle, while his beard obscures most of his face, leaving only piercing eyes that seem to burn with intelligence and desperation. Simon Pegg transforms himself completely for this role, shedding every trace of his comedic persona to become something altogether more disturbing and pitiable. The prisoner identifies himself as Morgan Warner, speaking in a voice roughened by years of limited use. He explains that he has been confined in this underground hell for 30 years, surviving on basic provisions delivered through a feeding slot in the door. His clothes hang in tatters, while his body shows the effects of prolonged confinement, but his mind remains sharp and focused on the injustice of his situation. Morgan claims to have been Archer's business partner and friend before a single night of poor judgment destroyed both their lives and set in motion the events that led to his imprisonment. Lauren's initial shock gives way to professional skepticism as her prosecutor training kicks in. She demands explanations and evidence while maintaining safe distance from the cell. Morgan weaves a tale of friendship and betrayal that begins with 2 young men building a business empire through legitimate means before gambling and alcohol began to corrupt their judgment. He describes Archer as increasingly reckless in both business and personal matters, taking risks that endangered everything they had worked to build. The friendship soured as Morgan tried to rein in his partner's excesses, leading to arguments and recriminations that poisoned their professional relationship. The night that changed everything began with heavy drinking at an exclusive Manhattan club, where Archer and Morgan celebrated closing a major business deal. Morgan describes his attempts to take Archer's car keys away, but ultimately failing to prevent his friend from driving while intoxicated. They struck a pedestrian on a darkened road outside the city, killing the victim instantly in what should have been a straightforward case of vehicular manslaughter. Instead of calling police or seeking medical attention, Archer convinced Morgan to help dispose of the body and cover up the crime, arguing that prison would destroy everything they had built together. Morgan's account becomes increasingly detailed as he describes the location where they buried the victim and the elaborate steps taken to create false alibis for that evening. He provides specific information about the victim's identity and personal effects that were removed from the scene. Lauren listens with growing horror as she realizes the implications of these revelations for her father's reputation and her family's political stand. The man she grew up believing was merely stern and demanding emerges as someone capable of murder and decades of calculated deception. The prisoner goes on to explain how Archer's paranoia grew in the weeks following the incident, leading him to conclude that Morgan represented an unacceptable risk to their secret. Under the pretense of planning their next business venture, Archer lured Morgan to the family property where he was drugged and awakened to find himself chained in the underground bunker. Archer appeared regularly during the early years of Morgan's captivity, explaining his reasoning and attempting to justify his actions. He spoke of the greater good served by keeping Morgan silent and the damage that would be done to innocent family members if the truth emerged. Over the decades, Morgan became Archer's confessor, as the weight of guilt drove the patriarch to share increasingly dark secrets from his life of wealth and power. He learned of Archer's extramarital affairs, including a long-term relationship that produced an illegitimate son hidden from the family. Morgan describes hearing about bribes paid to secure political appointments for both William and Lauren, along with other corruption that extended throughout their social and political circles. Each revelation was delivered like a sacrament in the underground chamber, as Archer sought absolution from his captive audience. Lauren struggles to process these accusations against her father while maintaining her professional objectivity. She demands proof of Morgan's claims, leading him to provide specific locations and details that can be verified through investigation. The victim's body lies buried beneath a distinctive oak tree on a piece of property that Archer sold years after the incident. Morgan provides the new owner's name along with landmarks that would allow recovery of the remains. He also directs Lauren to safe deposit boxes and hidden compartments where Archer stored evidence of his various illegal activities. The revelation of Archer's illegitimate son proves particularly devastating as Lauren learns of a half-brother she never knew existed. Morgan provides the woman's name and address along with details about financial support that Archer provided over the years. The boy is now approaching adulthood unaware of his true parentage, but bearing a striking resemblance to the Monroe family features. Lauren realizes that this information alone could destroy her brother's political career and their mother's carefully constructed public image. Evidence of political corruption extends beyond simple bribery to include intimidation of witnesses and manipulation of legal proceedings. Morgan describes Archer's network of influence that reached into law enforcement, judicial circles, and regulatory agencies. Cases where fixed sentences were reduced and investigations were terminated through a combination of money. Lauren begins to understand that her own career as a prosecutor may have been aided by her father's behind-the-scenes interventions, creating a crisis of professional identity that threatens everything she believes about herself. The weight of these revelations drives Lauren to seek verification of Morgan's claims, starting with the most easily confirmed details. She visits the property where the victim allegedly lies buried and discovers this distinctive oak. The current owners are elderly retirees who purchased the land decades earlier and have no knowledge of its dark history. Lauren cannot bring herself to excavate the site, but the accurate description provides troubling confirmation of Morgan's story. She also locates the safe deposit box using information Morgan provided, finding documents that support his claims about various illegal activities. Meanwhile, Morgan continues to share details about his 3 decades of captivity, describing the psychological torture of complete isolation, broken only by Archer's periodic visits. He speaks of suicide attempts and periods of complete despair, alternating with fierce determination to survive long enough to see justice served. The small cell contains crude calendars carved into the concrete walls, marking the passage of years with obsessive precision. Morgan has maintained his sanity through rigorous mental exercises, including memorizing every detail of his imprisonment and rehearsing the testimony he hopes someday to deliver in court. The prisoner's requests are simple but heartbreaking in their humanity. He begs for a proper meal after years of basic provisions delivered through the feeding slot. Lauren brings him steak and key lime pie, creating a moment of profound emotional connection as Morgan weeps at the taste of foods he has not experienced since his youth. The key lime pie holds special significance as it was his favorite dessert during the partnership with Archer, representing happier times before everything went wrong. These small acts of kindness begin to erode Lauren's professional distance as she sees the broken human being beneath the wild appearance. Morgan's manipulation skills become apparent as he gradually wins Lauren's sympathy through carefully crafted appeals to her sense of justice. He presents himself as the victim of circumstances beyond his control, while positioning Archer as the true villain whose actions destroyed multiple lives. The prisoner demonstrates detailed knowledge of Lauren's career and family relationships gathered through years of listening to Archer's confessions and guilt-ridden monologues. He uses this information to push precisely the right emotional buttons, convincing Lauren that freeing him would serve both justice and her own moral integrity. The discovery of additional evidence continues to support Morgan's version of events, including financial records that document payments to the victim's family disguised as charitable contributions. Archer created an elaborate web of shell companies, and offshore accounts designed to hide the source of these payments while providing ongoing support to the deceased man's widow and children. Lauren realizes that her father spent millions over the decades attempting to assuage his guilt while maintaining the fiction that the victim simply disappeared without explanation. Lauren's investigation uncovers Archer's long-term mistress, Sophia Fior, a sophisticated woman who bore his illegitimate son and maintained absolute discretion about their relationship. Cristina de Rosa portrays Sophia with quiet dignity as a woman who loved Archer despite knowing about his marriage and other moral compromises. Their son Eddie shows unmistakable Monroe family features, creating an immediate visual confirmation of his parentage. Sophia reveals that Archer provided generous financial support, but insisted on complete secrecy to protect his family's reputation and his son's political career. The evidence of bribery and corruption proves extensive, with documentation showing payments to judges, prosecutors, and regulatory officials spanning decades of illegal activity. Archer maintained meticulous records of these transactions, perhaps as insurance against his CO conspirators, or simply as a reflection of his obsessive need for control. Lauren discovers that several cases she prosecuted early in her career were influenced by her father's interventions, calling into question her professional achievements and ethical standing. The revelation creates a crisis of identity as she questions whether any of her success was truly earned. Morgan's psychological profile becomes clearer as Lauren spends more time in the bunker, listening to his stories and observing his behavior. Despite 3 decades of imprisonment, he has maintained remarkable mental acuity and emotional stability, suggesting either exceptional resilience or carefully concealed psychopathy. His detailed knowledge of current events gathered from overheard conversations and smuggled newspapers demonstrates his continued engagement with the outside world. The prisoner has used his time to plan extensively for his eventual release, developing The decision to free Morgan weighs heavily on Lauren as she considers the consequences for her family and career. Her brother's re-election campaign would be destroyed by revelations about their father's crimes, while their mother would face public humiliation and potential legal jeopardy. Lauren's own position as a prosecutor would become untenable as defense attorneys challenged every case she ever handled based on her father's corruption. The family's wealth and social standing would evaporate overnight, leaving them vulnerable to both legal prosecution and public disgrace. Despite these concerns, Lauren's sense of justice ultimately prevails as she concludes that 30 years of imprisonment without trial or conviction represents a fundamental violation of human rights. She arranges through Harold Thewlis to establish offshore bank accounts and charter a private jet that will allow Morgan to disappear permanently without threatening her family. The plan requires careful coordination to ensure Morgan's silence in exchange for his freedom, creating a delicate balance between justice and self-preservation. Harold proves instrumental in facilitating Morgan's escape, demonstrating the same careful attention to detail that characterized his decades of service to the Monroe family. The elderly attorney understands the implications of the revelations, but maintains professional loyalty even as he helps cover up his former client's crimes. Michael Beach portrays Harold with subtle complexity as a man torn between legal obligations and personal loyalty, choosing ultimately to protect the family that has sustained his career and livelihood. The night of Morgan's planned escape arrives with carefully orchestrated precision as Lauren leads him from the bunker to a waiting vehicle. After 30 years of confinement, the prisoner moves awkwardly in the outside world, blinking in wonder at stars he has not seen since his youth. His emotional reaction to simple freedom provides one of the film's most powerful moments as decades of suffering find expression in tears of gratitude and relief. Lauren provides him with new clothes and identification documents, along with access to funds that will support his new life. Morgan's departure should represent closure for Lauren and her family, but nagging doubts about his true identity prompt her to collect fingerprint samples for verification. This seemingly simple precaution sets in motion the events that will reveal the full extent of her father's crimes and her own perilous situation. The fingerprint analysis takes several days, during which Lauren attempts to return to normal life with her husband and daughter, while carrying the enormous weight of her family's secrets. The fingerprint results arrive at the Monroe house, while Lauren is away, creating the first crack in her carefully constructed plan for managing the crisis. Catherine discovers the envelope and opens it to find photographs and identification information that fills her with immediate terror. The name Carson appears on the documents along with images that clearly show the man Lauren believed to be Morgan Warner. Catherine's reaction suggests deep personal knowledge of this individual and immediate understanding of the danger he represents to their family. Catherine's revelation that the prisoner is actually Carson rather than Morgan Warner transforms the entire narrative from a story of wrongful imprisonment to something far more sinister. Connie Nielsen delivers Catherine's exposition with quiet horror as she explains Carson's true identity and the crimes that led to his confinement. Her performance conveys decades of suppressed trauma, as she recalls events that shaped her marriage and family in ways her children never understood. The elegant widow reveals depths of strength and vulnerability that recontextualize her entire relationship with Archer and their luck. Carson's true history emerges through Catherine's reluctant testimony as she describes a charming but dangerous young man who infiltrated their social circle through business connections with Archer. His good looks and sophisticated manner made him welcome at parties and gatherings where he cultivated relationships with wealthy and influential people. Carson demonstrated particular interest in Catherine herself, pursuing her with flattery and attention that she initially found amusing but which gradually became more aggressive and threatening. The night that changed everything occurred during a charity gala at the Monroe estate, where Carson appeared unexpectedly despite not being invited to the exclusive event. Catherine describes feeling unwell after accepting a drink from him and experiencing gaps in her memory that she initially attributed to exhaustion or illness. She awakened the next morning with physical evidence that she had been sexually assaulted but no clear recollection of the events that transpired. Carson had disappeared by morning, leaving Catherine to deal with the trauma alone, while maintaining appearances for her family and social circle. Archer's discovery of what happened to his wife triggered a violent rage that nearly led to Carson's immediate murder. Catherine describes her husband's transformation from successful businessman to avenging patriarch as he tracked down Carson and confronted him about the assault. The vehicular incident that Morgan described did occur, but with Carson as passenger rather than driver, as Archer transported his wife's rapist to what was intended to be his execution. The death of an innocent pedestrian complicated Archer's plans, but did not diminish his determination to ensure Carson faced justice for his crimes. The decision to imprison Carson rather than kill him reflected Archer's calculated approach to revenge, as he concluded that death would be too merciful for someone who had violated his family. The underground bunker became Carson's tomb, where he would spend the remainder of his life contemplating his crimes while slowly going insane from isolation and confinement. Archer's periodic visits served multiple purposes, including psychological torture and practical arrangements for maintaining Carson's captivity over the decades. Catherine's pregnancy following the assault created additional complications, as DNA testing would eventually reveal Carson as Lauren's biological father, rather than Archer. This revelation was kept secret from Lauren herself, as Archer chose to raise her as his own daughter despite the painful reminder of his wife's trauma. The family maintained the fiction of Lauren's parentage while dealing privately with the knowledge that their daughter shared genetic material with her mother's rapist and their captive enemy. Lauren's reaction to learning about Carson's escape and Harold's murder creates panic as she realizes the full extent of her miscalculation. The man she believed to be a wrongfully imprisoned business partner is actually a dangerous predator who spent 30 years plotting revenge against the family that confined him. Carson's intimate knowledge of Monroe family secrets, combined with his sociopathic personality, makes him an existential threat to everyone Lauren loves. Her attempt to balance justice with family loyalty has unleashed a monster who will. The discovery of Harold's body confirms Carson's murderous intentions, as the elderly attorney becomes the first victim of a carefully planned campaign of revenge. Harold's death was both practical and symbolic, as Carson eliminated someone who could identify him while demonstrating his willingness to kill anyone who stands in his way. The murder scene reveals signs of prolonged torture, suggesting that Carson extracted information about family finances and security arrangements before ending Harold's life. Carson's psychological profile emerges more clearly as Lauren and Catherine piece together his history and motivations. His 30 years of imprisonment have not reformed him, but instead intensified his sociopathic tendencies, while providing ample time to plan elaborate revenge. The physical deterioration caused by confinement masks a mind that remained sharp and focused on causing maximum damage to the Monroe family. Carson views his captivity as validation of his victim status, while completely ignoring the crimes that led to his imprisonment. The revelation that Carson never boarded his planned flight confirms Lauren's worst fears as she realizes he remained in the area to continue his campaign of revenge. His disappearance from the safe house arrangement suggests careful planning and possible assistance from unknown accomplices. Carson's ability to move freely while evading detection indicates resources and connections that extend beyond what a recently freed prisoner should possess. The implications terrify Lauren as she contemplates what other surprises Carson might have prepared during his decades of planning. Lauren's return to the Monroe house occurs with growing dread as she attempts to warn her mother about Carson's true identity and the danger they all face. The empty house greets her with ominous silence, broken only by signs of struggle that indicate Carson has already struck. Catherine's disappearance confirms Lauren's worst fears, while demonstrating Carson's intimate knowledge of the property and its security. Vulnerable. The predator has returned to the scene of his original crime to complete his revenge against the woman who suffered his assault and the family that imprisoned him. The journey back to the underground bunker becomes a descent into hell, as Lauren realizes Carson has taken Catherine to the location of his 30-year imprisonment. The symbolism is deliberate as Carson forces his victims to confront him in the place where he suffered while planning their destruction. The concrete corridors echo with Lauren's footsteps as she approaches the confrontation that will determine her family's fate and her own survival. Every shadow holds potential threat, while every sound might herald Carson's attack. Carson's physical transformation during his brief freedom demonstrates his adaptability and cunning as he has managed to clean himself up and acquire new clothes while maintaining his psychological hold over Catherine. Simon Pegg's performance shifts dramatically as Carson reveals his true nature, shedding the sympathetic prisoner persona to embrace his role as predator and avenger. His eyes burn with malevolent intelligence, while his voice carries undertones of madness cultivated through decades of isolation and hatred. The confrontation in the bunker reveals Carson's complete plan for revenge as he explains how he used Lauren's misguided mercy to escape and begin systematically destroying her family. He describes Harold's torture and murder with clinical detachment while outlining similar fates planned for Catherine, William, and Lauren herself. Carson's madness has evolved into something approaching artistic vision as he creates elaborate scenarios for each family member's destruction tailored to their individual fears and vulnerabilities. Lauren's attempts to reason with Carson prove futile as his psychological damage runs too deep for rational discourse. The years of imprisonment have crystallized his rage into pure hatred that cannot be appeased through apology or compromise. Carson views the Monroe family's wealth and success as stolen from him through their interference with his criminal career. He believes that destroying them will restore balance to a universe that wronged him through their actions. Catherine's courage emerges as she confronts her rapist after 3 decades of suppressed trauma while protecting her daughter from the truth about her parentage. Connie Nielsen delivers a powerhouse performance as a woman finding strength in her darkest hour, while facing the monster who destroyed her innocence and shaped her family's secret history. Her maternal instincts override personal fear as she positions herself between Carson and Lauren, despite Carson's revelation about Lauren's true parentage serves as his ultimate weapon against both women as he destroys the foundational lie that held their family together. The truth about Lauren's biological father represents Carson's final victory over Archer and Catherine, as he forces them to confront the lasting consequences of his crime. The moment crystallizes decades of deception and pain while threatening to shatter Lauren's sense of identity and belonging. The physical struggle that follows pits Lauren against Carson in a battle that represents more than simple survival, as it embodies the conflict between justice and revenge that has driven the entire narrative. Lauren's training as a prosecutor and her natural athleticism serve her well as she fights for her life and her mother's safety. Carson's years of confinement have weakened him physically, but his desperation and madness make him unpredictably dangerous. Catherine's decision to shoot Carson represents her final act of maternal protection as she chooses to kill. The gunshot echoes through the concrete chamber like thunder while Carson's body falls to end his campaign of revenge and his decades of twisted existence. Catherine's transformation from victim to protector completes her character arc, while demonstrating the lengths a mother will go to defend her child. The fire that consumes the bunker serves both practical and symbolic purposes, as Lauren and Catherine destroy the evidence of their family's crimes while purging the location of its dark history. The flames consume Carson's body along with documents and materials that could implicate the Monroe family in decades of illegal activity. The underground chamber becomes Carson's funeral pyre while erasing the physical reminder of Archer's guilt and the family's shame. Lauren and Catherine emerge from the burning bunker forever changed by their ordeal, as they carry new secrets that must be guarded as carefully as the old ones. The experience has bonded them through shared trauma, while testing the limits of family loyalty and maternal love. They have survived Carson's revenge but must now live with the knowledge of what they did to escape and the lies they must continue to tell to protect themselves. The aftermath of Carson's death requires careful management as Lauren and Catherine must explain his disappearance and Harold's murder without implicating themselves in vigilante justice. Their story must account for Harold's death while providing plausible explanations for Carson's presence in the area and his subsequent disappearance. The women's legal training serves them well as they construct a narrative that satisfies law enforcement while protecting their interests. William's political career survives the immediate crisis, but remains vulnerable to future revelations about their father's criminal activities and the family's. The election proceeds without major scandal, but the Monroe family's influence has been permanently diminished by the loss of Archer's leadership and Harold's expertise. William must navigate his political future without the safety net of family wealth and connections that previously guaranteed his success. The investigation into Harold's murder follows predictable patterns as law enforcement focuses on known criminals and business associates, while overlooking the family connections that might lead them to the truth. Lauren's position as prosecutor provides valuable insight into investigative procedures, while her legal training helps her avoid incriminating statements or behavior. The case eventually grows cold as leads dry up and attention shifts. Lauren's relationship with Scott faces new challenges as she struggles to integrate her traumatic experiences with her desire to maintain normal family life. The secrets she now carries create distance between them, while her changed perspective on justice and morality affects her approach to both marriage and parenthood. Scott senses the changes in his wife, but cannot understand their source, creating tension that threatens their relationship. Catherine's healing process begins slowly as she confronts decades of suppressed trauma while dealing with the immediate aftermath of Carson's death. The revelation of Lauren's true parentage creates new dynamics in their mother-daughter relationship, while shared experiences in the bunker create unprecedented intimacy between them. Catherine must learn to see Lauren not as a reminder of her assault, but as the daughter she chose to love regardless of biological origins. The family's financial situation stabilizes as Lauren gains access to previously hidden assets while learning to manage wealth she never expected to inherit. Archer's complex financial arrangements become clearer as forensic accountants untangle decades of transactions designed to hide illegal activities and protect family. The Monroe fortune survives largely intact despite the loss of key advisors and the exposure of some criminal enterprises. Lauren's career as prosecutor continues, but with a changed perspective on justice and the law as she grapples with the contradiction between her public role and private actions. Her experience with Carson forces her to confront the limitations of legal justice while questioning the morality of vigilante action. The cases she handles take on new meaning as she sees them through the lens of someone who has taken justice into her own hands. The key lime pie that symbolized Carson's humanity during his captivity becomes a reminder of how easily appearances can deceive and how manipulation can masquerade as vulnerability. Lauren reflects on how she was drawn into Carson's web through appeals to her sense of justice, while he planned the destruction of everything she held dear. The dessert represents the last vestige of the man Carson might have been before his crimes transformed him into something monstrous. The underground bunker's destruction eliminates the physical evidence of the Monroe family's dark history, while creating space for new growth and healing. The concrete chamber that held Carson for 30 years becomes ash and rubble that will eventually be reclaimed by nature. The location where so much suffering occurred transforms into something clean, and new, representing the possibility of redemption and fresh starts. Lauren's investigation skills that served her so well as prosecutor prove inadequate when applied to her own family's secrets, as she discovers that some truths are too dangerous to pursue, and some justice is too costly to achieve. Her legal training provided tools for uncovering Carson's deception, but could not prepare her for the moral complexity of deciding his fate. The experience teaches her that justice and law are not always synonymous, and that some situations require solutions that exist outside legal frameworks. The film's exploration of family loyalty versus moral obligation reaches its climax in Lauren's decision to free Carson and its devastating consequences for Harold and nearly for Catherine. Her attempt to balance justice with family protection. The Monroe legacy becomes a burden that must be carried by each family member regardless of their personal innocence or guilt. Catherine's strength emerges gradually throughout the film as she transforms from grieving widow to protective mother while confronting the trauma that shaped her adult life. Her journey from victim to survivor to avenger illustrates the complex psychology of sexual assault, survivors, and the long-term effects of untrue. The character represents resilience and determination while demonstrating that healing is possible even after decades of silence and pain. The political corruption that permeates the Monroe family's rise to power serves as commentary on the relationship between wealth and justice in American society. Archer's ability to manipulate legal proceedings through bribery and intimidation reflects systemic problems that extend far beyond individual. The family's crimes are enabled by institutions that prioritize wealth and connections over truth and justice. Simon Pegg's dual performance as sympathetic prisoner and sociopathic predator showcases the actor's range while illustrating the film's themes about deception and manipulation. Carson's ability to present himself as victim while planning revenge demonstrates sophisticated psychological manipulation. The character serves as a reminder that appearances can be completely deceiving and that some people are capable of sustained deception over extended periods. The film's pacing builds tension through gradual revelation of family secrets, while maintaining focus on the central relationship between Lauren and the man she believes to be Morgan Warner. Each new piece of information changes the context of previous events while deepening the mystery of Archer's motivation. The structure allows viewers to experience Lauren's growing horror as she discovers the true extent of her family's crimes and her own vulnerability. Director Vaughn Stein creates atmospheric tension through the contrast between the opulent Monroe mansion and the brutal concrete bunker where Carson was imprisoned. The visual design emphasizes the dual nature of wealth and power, showing how privilege can mask cruelty while respect. The underground setting becomes a character in itself, representing the buried secrets that threaten to destroy everything the family has built. The film's themes extend beyond simple crime thriller elements to explore questions of inherited guilt and the price of family loyalty. Lauren's struggle to reconcile her father's crimes with her love for him reflects broader questions about how children should respond to parental wrongdoing. The Monroe family's wealth and status provide no protection from the consequences of past actions, while their attempts to hide the truth only compound their problems. Matthew Kennedy's screenplay balances exposition with character development, while maintaining narrative momentum through carefully timed revelations. The script allows each character to have distinct voice and motivation, while serving the larger story about families. The dialogue reveals character while advancing plot, creating authentic interactions that feel natural, despite the extraordinary circumstances. Lily Collins anchors the film with a performance that captures Lauren's journey from confident prosecutor to traumatized daughter, while maintaining the character's essential strength and integrity. Her portrayal shows a woman struggling to maintain her moral compass while navigating impossible choices that pit personal loyalty. The performance demonstrates range as Lauren evolves from naive idealist to seasoned survivor. The cinematography emphasizes claustrophobic spaces and shadowy interiors that reflect the psychological state of characters trapped by family history and personal choices. The visual style creates atmosphere while supporting the narrative themes about hidden truths and the danger that lurks beneath respectable surface. Camera work becomes increasingly intimate as the story progresses, drawing viewers into the characters' emotional experiences. The production design creates authentic environments that support character development while serving practical storytelling needs. The Monroe Mansion reflects generations of accumulated wealth, while the underground bunker suggests improvised cruelty and long-term planning. The film's exploration of sexual assault and its long-term consequences handles sensitive subject matter with appropriate gravity while avoiding exploitation or sensationalism. Catherine's trauma receives serious treatment that acknowledges the lasting impact of sexual violence while showing how survivors can find strength and agency. The story demonstrates that healing is possible, while recognizing that some wounds never completely disappear. The editing maintains tension while allowing character moments to develop naturally, creating rhythm that supports both action sequences and quieter dramatic scenes. The pacing builds toward the climactic confrontation while providing adequate time for character development and plot exposition. Technical elements serve the story without calling attention to themselves, allowing viewers to focus on character and narrative. The score and sound design create atmospheric support for the narrative, while emphasizing key dramatic moments without overwhelming the performances. Musical choices reflect the dual nature of the Monroe family's existence, while sound effects enhance the claustrophobic atmosphere of the underground bunker. Audio elements contribute to overall mood, while supporting character development and plot. The film's resolution provides closure for immediate plot threads, while acknowledging that some consequences of past actions cannot be completely resolved. Lauren and Catherine survive their ordeal, but must continue living with secrets that will shape their future relationships and choices. The ending suggests that truth and justice are not always identical, and that some prices are too high to pay for moral purity. The broader implications of the Monroe family's story extend to questions about American power structures and the relationship between wealth and accountability. The family's ability to hide crimes and manipulate legal proceedings reflects systemic problems that enable wealthy individuals to escape consequences for their actions. The story serves as commentary on corruption and privilege, while exploring personal costs of maintaining family secrets. The performances throughout the film create authentic character relationships while serving the larger narrative about family loyalty and moral compromise. Supporting actors bring depth to roles that could have been simple plot devices, while main characters receive full development that makes their choices understandable, if not always sympathetic. The ensemble work creates believable family dynamics while supporting the central thriller elements. The film's technical achievements create an immersive experience that draws viewers into the Monroe family's world, while maintaining focus on character relationships and moral questions. Production values support storytelling while avoiding flashy elements that might distract from character development and plot progression. The overall craft serves the narrative while creating atmospheric experience that enhances dramatic impact. Inheritance ultimately explores the question of whether family loyalty should supersede moral obligation, while examining the long-term consequences of attempts to hide criminal behavior. The Monroe family's wealth and power provide no protection from the past, while their attempts to manage the truth only create new problems and dangers. The story demonstrates that some secrets are too dangerous to keep, while others are too costly to reveal. The film's legacy lies in its exploration of complex moral questions, without providing easy answers, while creating compelling character relationships that drive narrative forward. The story acknowledges that justice and revenge are not always distinguishable, while showing how past actions continue to shape present circumstances. The Monroe family's experience serves as a cautionary tale about the price of maintaining respectability, thorough deception, and violence. Lauren's journey from idealistic prosecutor to experienced survivor reflects broader themes about the loss of innocence and the complexity of adult moral choices. Her experience with Carson forces her to confront limitations of legal justice, while questioning assumptions about right and wrong that previously guided her decisions. The character's evolution demonstrates that wisdom sometimes comes at terrible cost, while showing that survival requires adaptation and compromise. Catherine's transformation from victim to protector completes her character arc while demonstrating that healing and empowerment are possible even after decades of suppressed trauma. Her final confrontation with Carson represents triumph over fear, while showing that maternal love can provide strength sufficient to overcome even the deepest psychological wounds. The character serves as an example of resilience while acknowledging the lasting impact of sexual violence. The film's exploration of inherited guilt examines how children must cope with parental crimes, while questioning whether moral debts can be passed from one generation to another. Lauren's struggle to understand her father's actions while protecting her family demonstrates the impossible positions created by family secrets and criminal behavior. The story shows that some burdens cannot be shared while others cannot be carried alone. Carson's character represents the danger of untreated trauma and unchecked sociopathic behavior, while serving as a reminder that some people cannot be redeemed through understanding or compassion. His 30 years of imprisonment created opportunity for reflection and growth that he chose not to take, instead nurturing hatred and planning revenge. The character demonstrates that isolation and suffering do not automatically create wisdom or empathy. The underground bunker serves as powerful metaphor for family secrets and hidden shame while providing concrete setting for key dramatic confrontations. The location represents Archer's attempt to bury his crimes, while maintaining respectable appearance, but ultimately becomes site of final reckoning between past and present. The bunker's destruction symbolizes possibility of new beginning, while acknowledging that some evidence of past actions can never be completely erased. The film's treatment of wealth and power examines how privilege can enable criminal behavior while creating obligations and expectations that trap family members in cycles of deception. The Monroe fortune provides resources for hiding crimes while creating stakes that make revelation increasingly costly. The story demonstrates that wealth cannot purchase absolution, while showing how financial resources can complicate moral choices. Harold's role as family attorney illustrates the moral compromises required of those who serve wealthy and powerful clients, while showing how professional loyalty can conflict with legal and ethical obligations. The character represents institutional enablement of criminal behavior, while demonstrating personal cost of maintaining silence about client crimes. Harold's death serves as a reminder that knowledge of family secrets can be dangerous, while showing that even faithful servants are expendable when circumstances change. The political elements of the story examine how criminal behavior by family members can compromise public servants while exploring relationship between personal morality and professional effectiveness. William's campaign continues despite revelations about family crimes. The story shows how family connections can both advance and threaten political careers. The film's pacing allows gradual revelation of information while building tension toward climactic confrontation between Lauren, Catherine, and Carson in the underground bunker. Each new piece of evidence changes understanding of previous events while deepening appreciation for characters' moral dilemmas and impossible choices. The structure creates experience that mirrors Lauren's own, from confidence to confusion to horrified understanding. The visual design contrasts elegant surfaces with hidden corruption, while using lighting and color to emphasize moral ambiguity and psychological complexity. The Monroe mansion represents respectability and tradition, while the bunker suggests cruelty and deception, creating physical manifestation of the family's dual nature. Production design supports character development while enhancing atmospheric elements that contribute to overall dramatic impact. The dialogue serves character development while advancing plot through authentic interactions that reveal personality and motivation without resorting to obvious exposition. Characters speak in ways that reflect their backgrounds and relationships while conveying information necessary for audience understanding. The screenplay balances revelation with character development. Inheritance succeeds as thriller while exploring deeper questions about family loyalty, moral obligation, and the price of maintaining secrets across generations. The Monroe family's experience demonstrates that wealth and power cannot protect against consequences of past actions, while showing how attempts to hide the truth often create new problems and dangers. The film provides entertainment while examining serious themes about justice, revenge, and the complex nature of human reality. The story's resolution acknowledges that some conflicts cannot be completely resolved, while showing that survival and healing are possible even after traumatic experiences. Lauren and Catherine emerge from their ordeal forever changed, but not destroyed, having found strength in their relationship, while learning difficult truths about family history. The ending suggests that while perfect justice may be impossible, some form of peace. The film's lasting impact comes from its exploration of moral complexity without providing simple answers, while creating compelling characters whose choices feel authentic even when they are morally questionable. The Monroe family story serves as a reminder that good and evil are not always clearly distinguishable, while showing that family love can survive even the most devastating revelations. Inheritance ultimately affirms that while the past cannot be changed, the future remains open to those willing to confront truth and accept consequences of both their own actions and those of people they love. The character development throughout Inheritance showcases remarkable depth, as each performer brings distinct layers to their roles that evolve significantly during the narrative progression. Lily Collins embodies Lauren Monroe with a complexity that transcends typical prosecutor portrayals as she navigates between professional confidence and personal vulnerability while discovering truths that challenge everything she believed about her family and herself. Her portrayal captures the internal conflict of someone trained to seek justice, confronting situations where legal solutions prove inadequate. Collins demonstrates exceptional range as Lauren transforms from idealistic public servant to pragmatic survivor, forced to make choices that contradict her fundamental beliefs about right and wrong. Simon Pegg delivers perhaps his most challenging performance as he completely abandons his comedic persona to inhabit the dual nature of Carson masquerading as Morgan Warburton. The transformation requires Pegg to embody both victim and predator, often within the same scene, as Carson manipulates Lauren through carefully crafted appeals to her compassion while concealing his true sociopathic nature. Pegg's physical transformation includes dramatic weight loss and altered appearance that makes him nearly unrecognizable, while his vocal delivery shifts between vulnerable pleading and menacing threats, depending on Carson's tactical needs. Connie Nielsen brings profound dignity to Catherine Monroe, as she portrays a woman carrying decades of trauma while maintaining the gracious facade expected of a political wife. Nielsen's performance reveals layers of strength beneath Catherine's composed exterior, as she protects family secrets while grappling with the personal cost of silence. Her scenes with Collins create authentic mother-daughter dynamics complicated by the revelation of Lauren's true parentage and their shared experience of Carson's manipulation and violence. Nielsen demonstrates how survivors of sexual assault can find empowerment through protecting others, even at great personal risk. Chace Crawford portrays William Monroe with the polished charm of someone born to privilege, while hinting at the moral compromises required to maintain political success built on family wealth and corruption. Crawford captures the golden boy politician archetype while suggesting underlying insecurity about his dependence on Archer's resources and influence. His performance shows how political ambition can create blind spots regarding family crimes while demonstrating the personal cost of inheriting power built on deception and violence. Patrick Warburton appears primarily in flashbacks and recordings, where he embodies Archer Monroe as a patriarch whose commanding presence masks deep moral corruption and psychological damage from decades of guilt. Warburton's portrayal suggests the weight of carrying multiple secrets while maintaining public respectability and family authority. His performance in Archer's final video message captures a man confronting his mortality while struggling to find redemption for crimes that cannot be undone or forgiven. Michael Beach brings gravitas to Harold Thewlis as the family attorney whose loyalty to the Monroes creates professional and ethical conflicts that ultimately prove fatal. Beach portrays Harold as someone who understands the moral implications of his choices while feeling bound by decades of service and professional obligation. His performance suggests the personal cost of enabling wealthy clients while maintaining plausible deniability about their criminal activities. Harold's murder serves as a stark reminder that knowledge of family secrets can be dangerous even for trusted advisors. Marque Richardson portrays Scott Monroe as Lauren's anchor to normal life, representing the world beyond political dynasties and family secrets. Richardson brings warmth and authenticity to the role of supportive husband, whose love for Lauren cannot protect her from the consequences of her family legacy. His performance captures the frustration of someone who senses his wife's distress without understanding its source, while demonstrating how family secrets can damage even the strongest relationships. The supporting cast enhances the narrative through carefully crafted performances that add depth and authenticity to the Monroe family's world. Rebecca Adams, as Jen Monroe Williams' wife, embodies the political spouse role with appropriate blend. Her scenes at family gatherings reveal the social dynamics of wealthy political families, while hinting at the tensions created by Archer's favoritism and the unequal inheritance distribution. Maria Francis portrays Claire Monroe, Lauren's young daughter, with natural innocence that contrasts sharply with the dark secrets surrounding her family. Frances represents the next generation who will inherit the consequences of past actions while remaining unaware of the crimes that shaped their privileged circumstances. Her presence reminds viewers of what Lauren risks losing if Carson's revenge succeeds or if family secrets become public knowledge. Joe Herrera appears as Detective Emilio Sanchez, representing law enforcement's attempts to investigate Harold's murder while remaining unaware of the family connections. Herrera portrays professional competence frustrated by lack of cooperation from subjects who have everything to hide. His scenes demonstrate how wealth and political connections can impede criminal investigations while protecting guilty parties from accountability. Lucas Alexander Ayub portrays Eddie Parker, the illegitimate son, whose existence represents another of Archer's secrets that could destroy the family's reputation. Ayub captures the innocence of someone unaware of his true parentage, while bearing unmistakable physical resemblance to the Monroe family features. His character serves as living reminder of Archer's extramarital relationships and the ongoing consequences of past deceptions. Christina DeRosa embodies Sophia Fior as Archer's longtime mistress, with dignity and discretion that explains how their relationship remained secret for decades. DeRosa portrays a woman who loved Archer despite his moral failings while accepting the limitations imposed by his marriage and political career. Her performance suggests the personal cost of maintaining discretion while raising his son without acknowledgement or public recognition. Alec James as young Morgan and Josh Murray as young Archer establish the friendship that preceded betrayal and murder, while Lydia Hand as young Catherine shows the innocence destroyed by Carson's assault. These performances provide context for adult characters' motivations while demonstrating how traumatic events can define entire lives. The ensemble work creates believable family dynamics that make the Monroe's wealthy, privileged world feel authentic despite the extraordinary. Cast members interact with natural chemistry that suggests decades of shared history while maintaining individual character traits that distinguish each family member's personality and motivations. The performances balance revelation with character development, ensuring that shocking plot twists emerge organically from established relationships and personalities. Director Vaughn Stein guides his cast through complex emotional terrain that requires subtle gradations of performance ease. His direction allows actors to develop their roles gradually as audience understanding of each character deepens through carefully timed revelations and behavioral details. Stein creates space for quieter character moments between thriller elements, ensuring that performances remain grounded in recognizable human emotions. Despite extraordinary circumstances, the film's casting choices reflect careful attention to finding actors capable of. Each performer brings specific qualities that serve their character's narrative function while contributing to overall ensemble dynamics. The casting successfully balances recognizable faces with lesser-known actors, creating a mix of star power and fresh performances that serve the story without overwhelming it. Costume design supports character development through clothing choices that reflect each person's role within the family hierarchy and social expectation. Lauren's professional attire evolves throughout the film as her circumstances change, while Catherine's elegant wardrobe suggests wealth and status maintained despite personal trauma. Carson's deteriorated appearance after 30 years of imprisonment contrasts sharply with flashbacks, showing his former sophistication and charm. Makeup and hair design contribute significantly to character development, particularly in Simon Pegg's transformation from well-groomed businessman to wild-haired prisoner, whose appearance reflects decades of captivity. The physical changes help establish timeline, while supporting the psychological profile of someone whose isolation has affected both mental state and personal grooming habits. Catherine's subtle aging makeup suggests the passage of time. The production design creates environments that support character relationships while reflecting the social and economic circumstances that define each family member's experience. The Monroe mansion establishes generational wealth and political power, while Lauren's modest apartment shows her deliberate choice to live independently of family resources. The underground bunker represents Archer's capacity for cruelty, while serving as physical manifestation of family secrets buried. Cinematography enhances character development through camera choices that reflect each person's emotional state and power dynamics within family relationships. Close-ups reveal subtle facial expressions, while wider shots establish social hierarchies and environmental contexts that inform character behavior. The editing rhythm allows character development to unfold naturally while maintaining thriller pacing that keeps audiences engaged throughout the revelation process. Cut patterns reflect emotional beats while building tension toward climactic confrontations between characters whose relationships have been defined by decades of secrets and deception. The editorial choices support performances while serving larger narrative structure. Sound design and musical score enhance character moments while building atmospheric tension that supports both dramatic scenes and thriller elements. Audio choices reflect emotional subtext while creating sonic landscapes that support each character's psychological state and environmental circumstances. The soundscape becomes integral to character development while serving practical storytelling needs. The film's exploration of generational trauma examines how past actions continue to shape present relationships while affecting characters who had no involvement in original crimes. Lauren's discovery of her true parentage forces her to confront inherited guilt while questioning her identity and place within the family structure. The narrative demonstrates how family secrets can poison relationships while creating ongoing consequences for innocent parties. Character motivations reflect complex psychology as each family member responds differently to inherited wealth, power, and moral compromise. William embraces his political inheritance despite its corrupt foundations, while Lauren attempts to build independent identity, separate from family influence. Catherine survives through compartmentalization and sacrifice, while Carson becomes consumed by rage and desire for revenge. The film's treatment of sexual assault trauma through Catherine's character shows how survivors can find strength while acknowledging lasting psychological effects that require ongoing management. Nielsen's performance demonstrates resilience without minimizing the impact of violence, while showing how protecting others can provide meaning and purpose for survivors. The character development avoids simplistic recovery narratives while showing authentic responses to trauma. Political corruption themes emerge through character interactions that reveal how wealth and influence can compromise justice while protecting guilty parties from accountability. Archer's ability to manipulate legal proceedings affects multiple characters while creating ongoing consequences that extend beyond his death. The narrative shows how systemic corruption enables individual crimes while requiring participation from multiple parties. Family loyalty conflicts with moral obligation throughout character arcs as each person must choose between protecting loved ones and pursuing justice. Lauren's struggle between prosecutorial ethics and family protection drives her character development, while forcing difficult choices that reveal personal values and priorities. The other characters face similar conflicts that test relationships while exposing fundamental differences in moral reason. The psychological thriller elements depend heavily on character development as Carson's manipulation tactics exploit specific vulnerabilities in Lauren's personality and professional background. His success requires intimate knowledge of her psychological profile, while his ultimate failure results from underestimating her strength and resourcefulness. The cat and mouse dynamic drives narrative tension, while revealing character traits of conflict and confrontation. Character relationships evolve throughout the film as revelations change understanding of past interactions, while forcing new dynamics based on altered circumstances. Lauren and Catherine's relationship deepens through shared trauma, while William remains largely unaware of the full extent of family secrets. The changing relationships reflect realistic responses to extraordinary stress while maintaining emotional authenticity. The film's resolution affects each character differently as they must integrate their experiences while moving forward with changed understanding of family history and personal identity. Lauren emerges stronger but scarred while Catherine finds peace through confronting her attacker and protecting her daughter. The character arcs provide closure while acknowledging that some effects of trauma and revelation will continue indefinitely. The performances throughout support themes about justice, revenge, and family loyalty, while creating memorable characters whose struggles feel authentic despite extraordinary circumstances surrounding their experiences. The thematic architecture of inheritance operates on multiple interconnected levels that examine power corruption, family dynamics, and the cyclical nature of violence within American aristocracy. Director Vaughn constructs a narrative framework that uses the thriller genre to explore deeper sociological questions about inherited privilege and moral responsibility across generations. The film functions as both entertainment and social commentary, examining how wealth insulates families from consequences while creating environments where criminal behavior can flourish unchecked by normal social constraints or legal accountability mechanisms. The central theme of inherited sin permeates every aspect of the narrative as Lauren discovers that her father's legacy extends far beyond financial inheritance to include moral debts that cannot be easily resolved or forgiven. The concept that children must pay for parental crimes creates dramatic tension, while exploring questions about individual responsibility versus family loyalty. Archer's decision to burden Lauren with his secrets rather than taking them to the grave represents a final act of selfishness that forces his daughter to choose between personal integrity and family protection. Class dynamics receive extensive examination through the contrast between the Monroe family's vast wealth and the working-class victims of their crime. The unnamed pedestrian killed in the drunk driving incident represents ordinary people whose lives are considered expendable by the wealthy elite who view legal consequences as obstacles to be managed, rather than justice to be faced. The film suggests that economic inequality creates conditions where wealthy individuals can literally get away with murder through strategic use of resources. Political corruption serves as both plot device and thematic statement about the relationship between money and democratic institutions in contemporary America. Archer's ability to manipulate legal proceedings through bribery and intimidation reflects systemic problems that extend beyond individual criminal behavior to encompass institutional failures that enable wealthy defendants to escape accountability. Williams' political career built on corrupt foundations represents the perpetuation of these systems through successive generations who benefit from criminal enterprises while maintaining public facades of respectability. The theme of generational trauma manifests through Catherine's experience as sexual assault survivor, whose attack continues to shape family dynamics decades after the initial crime. Her silence about Carson's identity and Lauren's true parentage demonstrates how trauma survivors often sacrifice personal healing to protect others from painful truths. The underground bunker where Carson was imprisoned becomes physical manifestation of buried trauma that continues to poison family relationships, even when hidden from conscious awareness. Gender dynamics within the Monroe family reflect broader social patterns where women bear disproportionate consequences of male violence, while being expected to maintain family stability through their silence and sacrifice. Catherine's rape and subsequent pregnancy with Lauren creates ongoing reminder of trauma, while forcing her to love a child who represents her worst experience. Lauren's career as prosecutor represents an attempt to seek justice professionally while remaining unaware of injustices within her own family history. The concept of justice versus revenge drives narrative conflict as characters struggle to distinguish between legitimate punishment and personal vengeance. Carson's 30-year imprisonment without trial or conviction violates fundamental legal principles while serving Archer's need for control. Lauren's initial sympathy for Carson reflects her professional commitment to due process, while her later recognition of his true nature forces her to confront limitations of legal justice in extreme circumstances. Family loyalty creates moral dilemmas throughout the narrative, as characters must choose between protecting loved ones and pursuing truth or justice. Lauren's struggle between prosecutorial ethics and family protection drives character development while illustrating broader conflicts between personal relationships and professional obligations. The film suggests that absolute loyalty can become a form of corruption when it requires covering up serious crimes or enabling continued harmful behavior. The theme of buried secrets operates both literally and metaphorically, as the underground bunker represents physical manifestation of family shame, while various hidden truths threaten to destroy carefully constructed public images. Archer's elaborate efforts to conceal his crimes reflect the enormous energy required to maintain deceptive appearances, while the eventual revelation of secrets that truth ultimately emerges, regardless of attempts at concealment. Power corrupts through multiple examples of how wealth and influence enable criminal behavior, while protecting perpetrators from normal consequences. Archer's network of corrupt officials and business associates creates an environment where illegal activity can flourish, while victims lack resources to seek justice or accountability. The cycle of violence theme emerges through examination of how Carson's imprisonment leads to Harold's murder and threatens additional killings as revenge begets revenge across multiple generations. Archer's decision to imprison, rather than prosecute Carson, creates conditions for ongoing violence, while his own death from poison suggests that even perpetrators eventually face consequences for their actions. The pattern demonstrates how violence spreads beyond original participants to affect innocent parties who become collateral damage in ongoing conflicts. Moral compromise appears as a recurring theme as characters make increasingly questionable decisions in pursuit of goals they believe justify their methods. Lauren's decision to free Carson without involving law enforcement represents well-intentioned choice that nearly proves fatal, while Harold's decades of enabling Archer's crimes demonstrate how small compromises can accumulate into major ethical violations. The film suggests that moral decline occurs gradually through a series of seemingly reasonable decisions that cumulatively create major corruption. The theme of hidden identity operates through Carson's deception about his true nature, while Lauren's discovery of her biological parentage forces her to reconsider fundamental assumptions about family and personal identity. The revelation that appearances can be completely deceiving extends beyond individual characters to encompass institutional facades that conceal systematic corruption. Social class privilege manifests through multiple examples of how wealthy families can manipulate systems designed to protect ordinary citizens, while using resources to avoid consequences that would destroy less fortunate individuals. The Monroe family's ability to maintain respectability, despite extensive criminal activity, demonstrates how social status can provide protection from scrutiny, while wealth enables cover-ups. The film critiques American aristocracy while showing how inherited advantages perpetuate inequality across generations. The theme of sacrifice examines how family members surrender personal happiness or moral integrity to protect group interests while exploring costs of maintaining unity through shared deception. Catherine's sacrifice of her own healing to protect Lauren from painful truths about her parentage. Lauren's willingness to compromise her prosecutorial ethics to protect family reputation illustrates conflicts between professional duties and personal loyalty. Environmental themes operate through contrast between pristine Monroe estate and corruption hidden beneath its beautiful surfaces, while the underground bunker represents violation of natural order through imprisonment and violence. The family's wealth allows them to create private spaces where normal social rules do not apply, while their criminal activities pollute otherwise idyllic settings. Nature becomes contaminated by human evil, while beauty masks underlying moral decay. Technological themes emerge through Archer's use of surveillance equipment and recording devices to document his confessions, while maintaining control over information that could destroy his family. The thumb drive containing his final message represents attempt to manage revelation of secrets from beyond the grave, while demonstrating how technology can preserve evidence of crimes long after perpetrators die. Modern communication methods enable both crime and its detection while creating permanent records that cannot be completely erased. Religious and philosophical themes appear through exploration of confession, guilt, and redemption as Archer seeks absolution through revealing his crimes while remaining unwilling to face legal consequences for his actions. His treatment of Carson as confessor represents perversion of religious concepts, while his inability to find peace, despite wealth and power, suggests the film questions whether redemption is possible for those who refuse to accept responsibility for their crimes while continuing to benefit from their proceeds. The theme of time operates through examination of how past actions continue to influence present circumstances, while 30 years of imprisonment demonstrates both human capacity for endurance and psychological damage caused by prolonged isolation. Carson's survival. The passage of time fails to heal wounds created by trauma and injustice, while delayed consequences eventually manifest regardless of attempts at concealment. Professional ethics receive extensive exploration through Lauren's struggle to balance prosecutorial duties with family loyalty, while Harold's complicity in Archer's crimes demonstrates how professional relationships can become corrupted through personal connections. The legal system appears vulnerable to manipulation by wealthy clients, while professionals face conflicts between fiduciary duties and moral obligations. The film suggests that institutional safeguards prove inadequate when individuals prioritize personal relationships over professional standards. The theme of legacy examines how individuals want to be remembered versus reality of their actions, while exploring responsibility of inheritors for crimes committed by previous generations. Archer's attempt to control his posthumous reputation through selective revelation of secrets demonstrates ongoing narcissism, while Lauren's inheritance of moral debts forces her to confront limitations of individual agency. Family legacies become burdens that cannot be easily discarded, while reputations built on deception prove unsustainable over time. Mental health themes emerge through examination of trauma responses and coping mechanisms employed by various characters, while exploring psychological effects of guilt, secrecy, and isolation on human development. Carson's deterioration during imprisonment contrasts with Catherine's functional adaptation to trauma, while Lauren's stress responses to discovering family secrets demonstrate a psychological impact of revelation. The film shows how mental health suffers when individuals cannot seek help due to need for secrecy, while suggesting that healing requires acknowledgement of truth, regardless of personal cost. These interconnected themes create rich thematic tapestry that elevates Inheritance beyond simple thriller entertainment to examine fundamental questions about justice, power, and responsibility in contemporary American society, while exploring personal costs of. The cinematographic language of Inheritance employs sophisticated visual storytelling techniques that reinforce thematic elements while creating atmospheric tension through carefully constructed shot compositions and lighting schemes. Director of photography Michael McDonough utilizes a restrained color palette, dominated by cool blues and grays that reflect the emotional distance between family members, while warm golden tones appear. The visual approach emphasizes contrast between public appearances and private realities through strategic use of shadows and reflected light that suggest hidden depths beneath polished surfaces. Camera movement throughout the film serves both practical and symbolic functions, as static shots during family gatherings suggest rigid social conventions, while handheld sequences during Lauren's investigation create a sense of urgency and discovery. The underground bunker scenes employ increasingly claustrophobic framing that mirrors Lauren's growing entrapment in family secrets, while wide establishing shots of the Monroe estate emphasize the vast resources available to conceal crimes and protect reputations. Tracking shots through corridor spaces create momentum, while close-ups on character faces reveal subtle emotional changes that advance psychological development. Lighting design reinforces character psychology through strategic placement of sources that create pools of illumination surrounded by darkness, representing knowledge emerging from ignorance. The bunker sequences utilize harsh fluorescent lighting that creates unflattering shadows, while emphasizing Carson's deteriorated physical condition and psychological instability. Natural daylight streaming through mansion windows suggests transparency and honesty. In top, production design creates authentic environments that support character development while reflecting social and economic circumstances that define family relationships. The Monroe mansion interior features antique furniture and classical architectural details that suggest generational wealth, while Lauren's modest apartment emphasizes her deliberate choice to live independently of family resources. The underground prison construction demonstrates both engineering sophistication and moral curation as modern tech. Costume design reinforces character hierarchies through clothing choices that reflect both personal taste and social expectations, while showing evolution of characters through wardrobe changes that mirror psychological development. Lauren's professional attire emphasizes authority, while her casual clothes at home suggest vulnerability and humanity beneath prosecutorial facade. Catherine's elegant wardrobe maintains dignity despite personal trauma, while Carson's sound design creates immersive audio landscapes that support emotional atmosphere while providing practical information about character psychology and environmental context. The underground bunker sequences utilize echo effects and mechanical sounds that emphasize isolation and confinement, while natural outdoor sounds during estate scenes suggest freedom and openness. Dialogue recording captures subtle vocal inflections. The musical score composition by Michael Giacchino employs orchestral arrangements that blend traditional thriller elements with more subtle psychological themes, reflecting character internal states rather than simply building suspense. The music avoids obvious emotional manipulation, while providing atmospheric support that enhances dramatic moments without overwhelming performances or dialogue. Thematic musical motifs associated with specific characters create continuity, while editing rhythm establishes pacing that alternates between contemplative character moments and accelerated thriller sequences, while maintaining overall narrative momentum that builds toward climactic confrontations. Cut patterns reflect emotional beats while creating visual connections between past and present events that illuminate cause and effect relationships. Montage sequences compress time while revealing character development through visual storytelling that supplements dialogue. Special effects work remains subtle throughout the film, focusing on practical elements that enhance realism rather than calling attention to technical achievement. The fire sequence that destroys the bunker utilizes controlled burning techniques that create authentic visual impact while ensuring performer safety. Blood effects during violent scenes maintain realism without becoming gratuitously graphic, while aging makeup transforms actors convincingly for flashback sequences. Set decoration adds layers of authentic detail that support character backgrounds while providing visual information about social and economic circumstances without requiring explicit exposition. The Monroe Mansion features artwork and antiques that suggest cultural sophistication, while personal photographs and documents, visible in background shots, provide character history through environmental storytelling. Location scouting identified filming sites that provide authentic backdrops for the narrative while offering practical advantages for complex shooting requirements. The mansion exterior provides impressive visual representation of generational wealth, while interior spaces allow for intimate character scenes and larger family gatherings. Natural outdoor locations support action sequences while providing visual relief from claustrophobic interior settings. Hair and makeup design contribute significantly to character development through choices that reflect personality and circumstances while showing physical and psychological changes over time. Carson's wild appearance after 30 years of imprisonment contrasts dramatically with flashback sequences showing his former sophistication and social confidence. Subtle aging effects help establish timeline while maintaining character continuity across different time periods. Stunt coordination handles action sequences with emphasis on realism and character authenticity rather than spectacular displays, while ensuring performer safety during physically demanding scenes. The fight sequences between Lauren and Carson emphasize desperation and survival, rather than choreographed combat, while maintaining believability through practical techniques. Vehicle work during flight. Art direction coordinates visual elements to create cohesive aesthetic that supports thematic content while maintaining consistent style throughout different locations and time periods. Color schemes reflect emotional atmosphere, while architectural choices suggest character psychology and social circumstances. Visual symbolism appears naturally within realistic environments, rather than forcing obvious metaphorical elements. The brass key that unlocks Carson's prison features distinctive design that suggests both elegance and sinister purpose, while documents and photographs provide visual evidence that supports exposition without requiring lengthy dialogue explanations. Personal items reveal character history through careful selection of meaningful objects. Wardrobe supervision ensures costume consistency across multiple shooting days while managing continuity. Character clothing reflects both individual personality and social expectations while showing appropriate wear and aging for different time periods. Costume changes support character development while maintaining realistic approach to how people actually dress in various circumstances. Transportation coordination provides period circumstances while ensuring modern scenes feature cars that reflect character, economic circumstances, and personal. Archer's luxury vehicles contrast with Lauren's modest car choice while supporting visual storytelling about family economic disparities and personal values. Script supervision maintains continuity across complex shooting schedule while ensuring dialogue delivery matches approved screenplay while allowing for natural performance evolution that enhances character development. Line changes receive approval while maintaining narrative consistency and character development. Location management handles practical requirements for filming in multiple environments while maintaining security for sensitive story elements and protecting privacy of filming locations. Mansion filming requires careful coordination with property owners, while underground bunker construction demands specialized safety protocols for confined space work. Urban location shoots balance authenticity with practical filming constraints. Technical supervision coordinates optical departments, mile and Syrinx. Underground filming presents unique ventilation and lighting challenges, while fire effects require specialized safety equipment and emergency procedures. Night shooting demands additional security and lighting resources, while maintaining visual authenticity. Post-production workflow manages extensive footage from multiple locations while maintaining quality standards for final delivery. Digital intermediate processing ensures consistent visual quality across different shooting conditions, while preserving intentional atmospheric choices made during principal photography. These technical elements combine to create cohesive cinematic experience that serves character development and thematic exploration, while maintaining high production values that enhance rather than distract from storytelling objectives, creating immersive world that supports suspension of disbelief necessary. The distribution strategy for Inheritance reflects evolving landscape of film releases in post-pandemic entertainment market, where traditional theatrical windows compete with streaming platforms and video-on-demand services for audience attention and revenue generation. The film's release pattern demonstrates strategic decisions about reaching target demographics, while maximizing revenue potential across multiple platforms and international markets. Distribution executives weighed factors including production budget, star power, thematic content, and competitive marketplace when determining optimal release strategy that would provide maximum exposure while protecting financial investment. International sales and foreign distribution required careful consideration of cultural sensitivities surrounding theming narrative integrity across different cultural contexts and regulatory. The film's exploration of wealthy American political dynasties and institutional corruption resonated differently in various international markets, depending on local political climates and audience familiarity with similar domestic scandals. Marketing materials and promotional strategies required customization for different regions while maintaining consistent brand identity and thematic message. Critics' reception varied significantly across different media outlets and review platforms, reflecting diverse perspectives on the film's handling of sensitive subject matter and genre conventions. Professional film critics examined technical achievements, character development, and thematic exploration, while general audience reviews focused more heavily on entertainment value and emotional impact. The disparity between critical and popular response highlighted ongoing debates about alternative. Marketing campaigns emphasize different aspects of the film depending on target audience demographics and media platforms utilized for promotional outreach. Television advertisements focused on thriller elements and recognizable cast members, while online marketing explored deeper thematic content and character relationships. Social media campaigns targeted specific audience segments through carefully crafted content that highlighted, without revealing major plots. Award season consideration required strategic positioning that emphasized artistic achievements while navigating competitive landscape of other films released during similar timeframe. The film's exploration of contemporary social issues and strong performances created opportunities for recognition in various award categories, while genre classification as thriller potentially limited consideration for more prestigious dramatic awards. Home entertainment release planning considered optimal timing for video on demand and physical media availability, while coordinating with streaming platform exclusivity windows and international distribution schedules. The complex narrative structure and character development suggested potential for enhanced viewing experience through special features and behind-the-scenes content that could add value for purchasers and behind-the-scenes content that could add value. Merchandising opportunities remained limited due to the film's serious thematic content and target audience demographics that typically do not engage heavily with branded products related to dramatic thriller content. However, strategic partnerships with relevant organizations focused on issues addressed in the film such as sexual assault awareness and political corruption reform created opportunities for meaningful community engagement beyond simple commercial. Educational outreach programs developed in conjunction with film release provided opportunities for academic institutions and community organizations to utilize the narrative as starting point for discussions about relevant social issues including family dynamics, legal ethics, and institutional corruption. These programs enhanced the film's cultural impact while creating additional revenue streams through licensing and educational sales channels. Festival circuit participation prior to wide release helped establish critical credibility and industry recognition, while providing valuable feedback for final marketing strategies and audience targeting. Festival screenings allowed filmmakers to engage directly with audiences and critics, while generating buzz and word-of-mouth promotion that enhanced commercial release prospects. International festival participation expanded global awareness and digital marketing strategies utilize sophisticated data analytics to identify and target potential audience segments through personalized content delivery across multiple online platforms and social media channels. Trailer releases were timed strategically to maximize engagement, while behind-the-scenes content and cast interviews provided ongoing promotion throughout the extended marketing campaign. Interactive online product placement and brand integration remained minimal due to the film's serious subject matter and period settings that limited opportunities for contemporary commercial partnerships. However, strategic placement of luxury brands and political imagery supported authentic character development while providing subtle revenue enhancement without compromising artistic integrity or narrative coherence. Audience research and test screening feedback influenced final editing decisions and marketing messaging while providing valuable data about audience response to sensitive content and complex narrative structure. Focus group discussions revealed audience preferences for character development and thematic exploration, while highlighting potential concerns about violent content and disturbing subject matter that required careful handling in promotional materials. Box office tracking and performance analysis provided ongoing feedback about audience response and competitive positioning, while informing decisions about theater expansion and marketing spend allocation. Weekend box office performance influenced subsequent marketing strategies and distribution decisions, while international box office results affected future project development and financing opportunities for similar content. Streaming platform negotiations required careful consideration of exclusivity windows, revenue sharing arrangements, and content restrictions, while balancing immediate financial needs with long-term strategic positioning for future projects. Platform algorithms and recommendation systems influenced audience discovery, while subscriber data provided valuable insights about viewing patterns and audience engagement with similar content. Critical analysis from film scholars and academic reviewers provided deeper examination of thematic content and artistic achievement, while contributing to ongoing cultural conversation about issues addressed in the narrative. These reviews enhanced the film's intellectual credibility, while providing educational resources for academic programs and community discussions focused on relevant social issues. Industry impact assessment examined the film's influence on subsequent thriller productions and industry approaches to handling sensitive subject matter, while evaluating commercial and artistic success factors that could inform future project development. The film's technical achievements and performance innovations contributed to ongoing evolution of filmmaking techniques and industry best practices. Legacy evaluation considered the film's lasting cultural impact and continued relevance of thematic content while assessing its contribution to ongoing social conversations about institutional corruption, family dynamics, and justice versus revenge. The narrative's exploration of contemporary issues ensured continued relevance, while strong performances and technical achievements supported enduring artistic value. Sequel and franchise potential required evaluation of audience demand and commercial viability, while considering narrative possibilities for character development and thematic exploration in potential future installments. The film's conclusion provided closure, while leaving opportunities for further exploration of family history and ongoing consequences of revealed secrets. Remake and adaptation rights consideration examined potential for international versions or updated adaptations that could explore similar themes in different cultural contexts while maintaining core narrative elements and character relationships. The universal themes of family loyalty, moral compromise, and inherited guilt suggested potential for successful adaptation across different cultural and temporal settings. These commercial and cultural factors demonstrate how contemporary film distribution requires sophisticated understanding of multiple markets, audience segments, and platforms, while balancing artistic integrity with commercial viability in increasingly complex entertainment landscape, where success depends on effective coordination of creative and business elements throughout development, production, and release processes that extend far beyond. The financial performance and commercial reception of Inheritance demonstrates the complex dynamics of independent film distribution in contemporary entertainment markets, where traditional metrics of success must be evaluated alongside evolving audience consumption patterns and streaming platform economics. The film's theatrical release generated modest box office returns that reflected both the challenging marketplace for original thriller content and the specific positioning of the project within the broader landscape of similar genre offerings competing for audience attention during the same release window. Production budget constraints influenced creative decisions throughout the filmmaking process, as the independent financing structure required careful allocation of resources across above-the-line talent, below-the-line technical requirements, and post-production finishing costs. The relatively modest budget created opportunities for creative problem-solving, while potentially limiting certain technical achievements and star power that might have enhanced commercial appeal. Budget parameters affected casting decisions, location choices, and technical specifications while requiring efficient production scheduling that maximized value from available resources. Domestic box office performance reflected audience response to marketing campaigns and critical reception, while demonstrating the challenges facing original thriller content in marketplace dominated by franchise properties and established intellectual property adaptations. The film's opening weekend numbers indicated limited audience awareness despite marketing efforts, while subsequent performance suggested mixed word-of-mouth response that prevented significant expansion beyond initial theater counts. Box office tracking services provided ongoing analysis of performance factors, including demographic breakdowns and geographic variations, that informed distribution strategies. International distribution arrangement. Foreign box office performance varied significantly between territories, reflecting local audience preferences, marketing effectiveness, and competitive circumstances specific to each region. Some international markets showed stronger response to the film's themes and performances, while others demonstrated limited interest in the specific subject matter and genre conventions. Streaming platform licensing. Streaming increasingly important revenue source as traditional theatrical platform executives evaluated the film's potential for subscriber engagement and retention while considering content acquisition costs and exclusive licensing terms. Streaming performance metrics, including completion rates, viewer engagement, and audience retention, provided valuable data about the film's effectiveness in capturing and maintaining viewer attention. Video on demand and digital rental performance supplemented theatrical and streaming revenue, while providing insights into audio. Digital platform analytics revealed viewing patterns and demographic information that helped distributors understand audience preferences while informing future marketing and distribution strategies. Premium video on demand pricing strategies balanced revenue maximization with accessibility concerns for target audience segments. Physical media sales, including DVD and Blu-ray distribution, faced declining market conditions but continued to represent meaningful revenue. Collector editions and special packaging created opportunities for enhanced value propositions, while behind-the-scenes content and audio commentaries added perceived value for dedicated fans and film enthusiasts seeking deeper engagement with the material. Television licensing deals with cable networks and broadcast channels provided additional revenue opportunities, while exposing the film to broader audiences who might not have encountered it through theatrical or streaming platforms. Television placement strategies considered appropriate time slots and audience demographics while coordinating with other distribution windows to maximize overall exposure and revenue generation. Network programmers evaluated the film's suitability for their audience demographics and content standards. Educational and institutional licensing created niche revenue streams, while supporting academic discussions of themes addressed in the narrative, including university film programs and continuing education courses utilized the film as case study material, while community organizations focused on relevant social issues incorporated it into programming and discussion events. Educational distributors developed supplementary materials and discussion guides that enhanced the film's value for institutional users. Ancillary revenue streams included soundtrack sales, merchandising opportunities, and licensing for various commercial uses. Limited merchandising potential reflected the serious subject matter and target audience demographics, while soundtrack licensing provided modest additional revenue through digital platforms and physical sales channels. Brand partnerships remain minimal due to the film's dramatic content and themes. Awards campaign strategies balanced artistic recognition with commercial promotion while navigating competitive landscape of other films released during similar timeframe targetings. Industry recognition through film festivals and professional organizations enhanced the film's credibility while generating additional publicity and audience awareness. Award nominations and wins provided valuable marketing materials for ongoing distribution efforts across multiple platforms and territories. Critical reception analysis revealed patterns in reviewer response that reflected both appreciation for technical achievements and professional film critics examined the film's artistic merits, while general audience reviewers focused more heavily on entertainment value and emotional impact. The gap between critical and popular response highlighted ongoing debates about genre conventions and artistic ambitions in contemporary thriller filmmaking. Survey data and focus group feedback identified strengths and weaknesses in audience response, while suggesting modifications that might have improved commercial performance and critical reception. Return on investment calculations considered multiple revenue streams and cost factors while evaluating overall financial success relative to budget constraints and industry benchmarks for similar projects. Profitability analysis extended beyond immediate box office returns to include long-term licensing revenue and ongoing distribution income that continued generating returns months and years after initial release. Investment partners and financing entities evaluated performance against projected returns and industry standards. Market research and competitive analysis examined the film's performance relative to other thriller releases during similar time frame. Comparative studies revealed audience preferences and market conditions that affected reception while providing insights for future project development and distribution strategies. Industry analysts track trends and patterns that influence decision-making across the entertainment business. Distribution platform partnerships required ongoing relationship management and performance evaluation while coordinating promotional efforts and audience engagement. Platform executives provided feedback about audience response and engagement metrics, while distributors optimized content presentation and marketing materials for different viewing environments and audience expectations. Long-term performance tracking continued monitoring revenue generation and audience engagement months and years after initial release while evaluating the film's lasting impact and ongoing commercial viability. Catalog value assessments considered the film's potential for continued revenue generation through various distribution channels, while library licensing deals provided ongoing income streams for investors and rights holders. These financial and commercial considerations demonstrate the complexity of contemporary film distribution, where success requires sophisticated understanding of multiple revenue streams, audience segments, and market dynamics, while balancing artistic integrity with commercial viability. An increasingly competitive entertainment landscape that demands strategic thinking and adaptive approaches to reach and engage target audiences effectively across diverse platforms and territories. The cultural impact and critical discourse surrounding Inheritance extends beyond immediate entertainment value to encompass broader conversations about contemporary American society and the mechanisms through which wealth and power perpetuate themselves across generations. Film scholars and cultural critics have examined the narrative as reflection of ongoing anxieties about institutional corruption and the failure of democratic systems to provide accountability for the film's exploration of inherited privilege resonates with current political discourse about wealth inequality and the extent to which economic advantages translate into immunity from legal consequences. Academic analysis of the film has focused on its treatment of trauma and recovery, particularly through Catherine's character arc, which demonstrates both the lasting effects of sexual violence and the possibility of finding agency and empowerment, even decade. Feminist critics have praised the film's nuanced portrayal of a survivor who maintains dignity and strength while acknowledging the ongoing impact of trauma on her relationships and decision-making processes. The character development avoids simple recovery narratives while showing authentic responses to trauma that include both vulnerability and resilience. Media studies scholars have examined the film's use of genre conventions to explore serious social issues while maintaining commercial appeal that allows challenging content to reach broader audiences. The thriller framework provides accessible entry point for discussions about family dynamics, moral responsibility, and institutional corruption, while the suspenseful narrative structure maintains audience engagement throughout complex character development and thematic. This approach demonstrates how genre filmmaking can serve as vehicle for social commentary without sacrificing entertainment value. Legal ethics professors have utilized the film in classroom discussions about prosecutorial responsibility and the challenges faced by legal professionals whose personal relationships conflict with professional obligation. Lauren's struggle between family loyalty and prosecutorial duty provides case study material for examining real-world ethical dilemmas, while the revelation of her father's corruption raises questions about how family connections might compromise legal judgment. These discussions connect fictional narrative to practical challenges faced by legal professionals in their daily practice. Political science analyses have focused on the film's portrayal of corruption networks and the ways in which wealthy families can manipulate democratic institutions to protect their interests. Archer's ability to influence legal proceedings through bribery and intimidation reflects broader concerns about money in politics and the extent to which economic power can undermine democratic accountability. The narrative serves as a cautionary tale about the concentration of wealth and its effects on democratic governance and rule of law. Psychology experts have examined the film's treatment of family dynamics and the ways in which secrets and trauma affect relationships across generations. The Monroe family's dysfunction reflects patterns commonly seen in families dealing with addiction abuse. Clinical psychologists have noted the authenticity of character responses to revelation of family secrets and the realistic portrayal of how individuals cope with discovering disturbing truths about loved ones. Criminology scholars have analyzed the film's exploration of white-collar crime and the mechanisms through which wealthy individuals avoid prosecution for serious offenses. The narrative demonstrates how resources can be used to obstruct justice and intimidate witnesses while showing the long-term consequences of criminal behavior even when immediate accountability is avoided. The film serves as illustration of systemic problems within criminal justice systems that struggle to prosecute wealthy and powerful defendants effectively. Sociology professors have incorporated the film into discussions about social class and the reproduction of inequality through institutional advantages and cultural capital that wealthy families pass to their children. The Monroe family's wealth provides not only financial resources, but also social connections and cultural knowledge that enable their criminal activities while protecting them from consequences. The narrative demonstrates how class privilege operates in practice while showing the personal costs of maintaining systems based on exclusion and deception. Film industry professionals have studied the production as an example of effective independent filmmaking that achieves high production values within budget constraints while addressing serious subject matter that might be considered commercially risky. The film demonstrates how careful resource allocation and creative problem-solving can produce professional. Production strategies employed in the film have influenced subsequent independent projects dealing with similar content and budget limitations. International critics have examined the film's portrayal of American political culture and family dynamics, while considering how the narrative resonates with audiences in different cultural contexts. The themes of corruption and inherited privilege have universal relevance, while specific details of American political and legal systems provide. Foreign audiences have responded to the universal aspects of family conflict and moral compromise, while gaining understanding of American institutions and social dynamics. Religious scholars have analyzed the film's treatment of confession, guilt, and redemption, while examining how spiritual themes operate within secular narrative framework. Archer's relationship with Carson as unwilling confessor represents perversion of religious concepts, while his inability to find peace despite attempts at confession suggests limitations of self-serving spiritual practices. The narrative raises questions about genuine repentance versus attempts to manage guilt without accepting genuine accountability for harmful actions. Gender studies experts have examined the film's treatment of masculine power and its abuse, while analyzing how patriarchal systems enable violence against women and protect perpetrators from consequences. Archer's response to Catherine's assault demonstrates both protective instincts and controlling behavior that serves his own interests as much as his wife's well-being. The narrative explores how masculine authority can be used both to protect and to harm, while showing the complex dynamics of power within traditional family structures. Mental health advocates have praised the film's sensitive treatment of trauma recovery, while noting its realistic portrayal of how individuals cope with discovering family secrets and confronting painful truths about loved ones. The characters demonstrate various coping strategies, including denial, compartmentalization, and active confrontation of problems, while showing that healing requires acknowledgement of truth, regardless of personal cost. The narrative avoids oversimplified therapeutic messages while providing authentic portrayal of psychological resilience and vulnerability. Literary critics have analyzed the film's narrative structure and its use of revelation and discovery to drive character development. The screenplay demonstrates sophisticated understanding of how information release affects audience engagement while serving character development and thematic purposes. The script balances exposition with character interaction while maintaining narrative momentum through carefully timed revelations that change understanding of previous events. These critical perspectives demonstrate the film's success in generating meaningful discourse about important social issues, while maintaining entertainment value that allows serious content to reach diverse audiences seeking both engagement and enlightenment through cinematic experience that combines artistic achievement with social relevance and cultural significance that extends beyond simple commercial entertainment to encompass educational and advocacy potential.